Hello and welcome to Inspired Living. My name is Verena and I'm really happy that you decided to join us for another episode in this series. So, as you might know, in this series I am talking to people that I find inspiring, and they are from very different backgrounds. And I'm doing that, well, because I just love talking to interesting people, and also because to me it opens up new worlds. And either if I'm talking to them or if I'm listening to someone who is talking to someone who looks at life in a bit of a different way. And so today I am talking to Fiona Maguire. And Fiona, she is a unique combination of having a degree in psychology, being a psychologist, and at the same time working on an energetic level with her clients. So she's working with energy. And usually in the normal world out there, well, that's probably a bit odd, but she's doing it in like her own style and is helping people with it, like big time. And as you will find out in the interview, Fiona is just really a lovely human being. And she's talking about her own life, how she, as a kid, was already aware of her ability to feel other people's feelings that, well, we all in some way do, but for her was and is this skill really amplified. And so this is just one part of her special gift, I would call it. And so she is talking about how this kind of, was not always helping her, but in the end she did something with this gift. And this is helping people and just really having a joyful life and living an inspired life herself. So you will also find out in this episode that she is doing a little kind of mini session with me, and she shows how she is working with energy in a real life example with me in this case. And so I'm kind of getting a bit naked there, metaphorically speaking. And so I hope you enjoy this episode. And let me know in the comments or just get in touch with me if you have any questions or anything you would like to add. So, as I said, have fun and talk soon. Hello and welcome, Fiona.
Hi, Verena. Thank you for inviting me. It's really good to see you.
Yeah, thank you for being here on the call. So, Fiona, you are originally from, or your family comes from Ireland, as I get it.
That's
And
correct.
you grew up in England.
That's true. Yeah,
Right?
spent my whole life in England. Well, I travelled a lot, but mainly in
Yeah,
England.
yeah. So, um, basically, I would love you to talk about what are you doing, what are you doing in life, and just how you got to where you are now.
Okay, cool. So I started as, let me start again. So what I work as is I'm an intuitive transformational coach, and that is basically my own therapy. I've made that. So my degree was in psychology. And the reason why I study psychology is because as long as I can remember, I've been able to read energy. And what that means, or what it meant to me when I was a child, was that I could feel what other people were feeling. And unlike other people, this is what I learned later, I knew that it was the other person that was feeling it. And I knew what was my feelings. And it took me a long time to realize that people didn't often know what they were feeling, let alone what anyone else was feeling. And often when people feel something, they just decide that it's their feeling. They don't even think about, well, if I pick this up from somebody. So I can give an example of that. You might be aware that you're happy and, it's a good day and you go and meet somebody you haven't seen for a while, and you're really excited, you're looking forward to it. And then as the meeting goes on, you realise you're getting more tired and more tired and more tired. And then when you leave the meeting, you're completely drained, and you might actually notice that they look better than they did at the beginning of the meeting. So what's happened is they've literally sat in your energy, they've taken your energy, and you've sat in their energy and you've taken their energy. So maybe they were having a bad day, and you just took all that on and made it yours. And likewise, they took on all your good feelings, all your excitement, and made it theirs. Has that ever happened to you, that you've suddenly realised at the end of the meeting you've drained?
Absolutely. Yeah. Sounds very familiar. Yeah. And actually, it took me quite a long time, as you said in the beginning, to see that maybe it's not just my feeling, that what's happening there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we feel our feelings, and we feel our emotions. We feel a lot of things. We feel our own presence. Maybe that's something we get into it a bit more later. But it didn't make me popular knowing what other people were feeling, especially when they themselves didn't understand their own feelings, when they weren't in connection with their own feelings. So I can remember one time when I was 3 years old, and people go, God, how do you remember that long? Well, when you read energy, it just seems in a way that some things just stick out to you. And being an Irish family, there's lots of people coming in and out of the house all the time. It's just the way the Irish were back then. And one of my friend's mums come in, and I just happened to be sitting in the living room with my mum, and her and her friend was talking. And I was really intrigued, because I remember feeling that this woman didn't feel good to me. She didn't feel happy, but she was pretending she was happy. So as a 3-year-old, I just thought, this lady's lying. Why is she lying? So I said to my mum, why is she allowed to lie and I'm not?
Wow.
Yeah. And my mum just looked at me. This lady looked at me, and I tell you, if she got any further away from me, she would have fell off the sofa.
Super.
Yeah, she just thought, who is this person? So my mum just told me to go to my room, and I was like, but mum, and she was like, Fiona, go to your room. Okay. So, but I didn't learn. It took me until I was about 12 to realise that people really didn't feel their own feelings.
Okay. But it never made you question your own feelings? Like, as in, is it really the other person I'm feeling, or is it something else? You never doubted your own feelings?
No, not as a child, not once. It was
Wow.
only as I went into teenage years, and as I started to have boyfriends, and then when things got a bit more complicated in the family, I got a little bit confused. And what I realised now, and even back then quite quickly, that I got confused about my feelings when something really mattered to me, and if that person was close to me. So explaining it in energy terms, we naturally exchange energy. That's what we do. That's being human. But we take on energy if it's a match for our energy. So if you're both feeling happy, the energy exchanges, and you take on a bit of their energy, and that's natural. But when you're a teenager and you're arguing with your parents, for example, you naturally jump into each other's energy space, because I want them to listen to me. I want to be right. So I'm going to jump into their energy space. Not all of me, but I'm going to send energy into their energy space. And my mum or dad are going to send energy into my energy space, because they want to prove to me that they're right. That's how arguments work, okay? You're trying to prove that you're right.
Yeah.
So the energy goes to the other person's energy space, but it stays because it gets stuck, because it's a match of energy. Now, that's natural and normal as well, for the energy to match and be stuck. But what's meant to happen, and what happens when it's a good exchange, is that energy just goes back to each other. when you part, your energy goes back to you, their energy goes back to them. But if it's matching energy and you part in not good terms, then some of my energy stays in their body and some of mum and dad's energy stays in my body. And that's where it got confusing, because I was just like, this doesn't feel like my energy or my emotion, but I feel it really strongly, so maybe it is. And I didn't learn about matching energy until later on in life, when I started to study other people and how they read energy and not read energy. So I studied psychology because I really wanted to understand what it is that makes people lie. Why do people want to pretend that they're one thing and they're another, that they feel one thing and yet, pretend they're something else? And I wanted to understand, we say in English, what makes somebody tick, like what motivates them, what interests them, what makes them excited, what inspires them. So I studied psychology, and to be honest, I didn't really find any answers to my questions. And I worked as an assistant psychologist, I think it was for about 4 years now. And actually, I can't even remember how long it was, 2 or 4 years. And more for me, I just thought, well, I worked with children, which I loved. And the children grasped a good understanding of themselves, and sometimes they changed, or they changed enough to be allowed out of hospital. But as soon as they went back to their family environment, they became the same again, because they didn't understand how to stand in their own energy. They didn't understand how to believe in their own mind, that they were still very much conditioned. And when they went back to the family, they had to be conditioned by the family because they had to be approved. And if you've been in a mental hospital, all you want to do is for people to approve of you, so they say you're well. So noticing all this, I thought, well, the children changed the quickest when I was just myself with them, when I wasn't trying to be a psychologist, when I wasn't trying to be anything, when I just stayed in my own presence with them. So I'll give you a good example of that. I was with this teenage girl. She was about 13, and she'd just come into the unit. That's what we called them at the time, the psychiatric unit for adolescents. And she was shouting and swearing and kicking and screaming. And then they put me in charge of her. And I just looked at her and I just said, let's go into your room and let's just organise your room the way you want it to be. She and I was like, come on, it's your room, surely you want to make it look how you want it to make it look. And she had a lot to say about that, nothing good. But when we went into the room, I just sat in the door of the bedroom, and she just looked at me and she asked me what I was doing, and I just said, I'm just sitting. Because I had to keep an eye on her 24 hours a day. She was at high suicidal risk. So somebody had to, and I was just the first person. So I said to her, why don't you unpack your stuff? Why don't, you make the room look a bit more comfortable and a bit more like yours? So she started unpacking her things, and then she started swearing and shouting and threatening me. And I just stayed really calm. I just sat in the door and I just stayed really calm. Then she sat on her bed and she said, you're not bothered, are you? And I said, no, I am bothered. If bothered means, do I care about you? Yes, I do. Does bothered mean, am I bothered about what you're saying and how you're saying it? No. And I said, when you want to talk, I'm here. When you want to carry on behaving like you are, that's fine. I'm here anyway. So then she just got more and more curious. And she started to quieten down. She matched my energy. She naturally quietened down. And then she asked me some questions about myself, and I asked her some questions about her, and we had a normal conversation. And then she started to look quite sad. So I just waited. And then eventually she said, I don't want to be in here. And I said, okay, so tell me about that. And she said, no, what I mean is I want to be outside with the other kids. And I said, oh, okay. And she said, but I know I'm not allowed to do that. So she had been listening, even though she'd been shouting and swearing at the other doctors, she had been listening. So I said to her, okay, so what would you do if you was outside? And she looked at me and she said, what do you mean? I said, well, I said, what would you do? And she said, well, of course, I would play. And I said, okay, so you'd go outside and you'd just play with the other kids. You wouldn't do anything silly. You wouldn't run away. You wouldn't. And she made a joke. She said, oh, now you put it in my head. So as soon as she made a joke, I knew that we'd connected. So I said to her, look, if you can go outside and you don't do anything silly and you just enjoy being with the children, then I will sign the piece of paper that I've given you permission to go outside. And I said, and what that means, if you do anything silly, I will get the sack. But I'm willing to take a risk because I trust you. Do you trust yourself? She just looked at me and I said, well, you know, we have an agreement that you'll go outside and you won't do anything silly and you'll just enjoy yourself and enjoy the day with the other children. She said, yeah. And I said, okay, let's do it. And she was really surprised. And as we walked out, she said to me, why are you trusting me? And I said to her, because I think underneath all of your hardness, you just want to be trusted and accepted like all of us. So let's just go out and enjoy the day. And it was things like that. It was actually just being with somebody, just really accepting who they were, where they were at, without any judgments, just being open and just being with them. But at the same time, keeping my common sense about me. That's how the children changed. But as soon as they went back into an environment that didn't do that, then all hell let loose. You know, they become ill again and everything else. So I started to think, well, okay, well, that's good, but how can I create long-term results quickly in a way that they will keep their results no matter where they go? And I realized it had to be an inside job. They themselves had to trust themselves. They had to accept themselves. But more than that, they had to undo the conditioning that was built into them as children. Do you know what I mean by conditioning? Yeah, so it's the programming that we've received of our parents, society, teachers. And so I started just working with energy because I believe energy is the foundation of all the conditioning. You take away the energy, all the foundation crumbles and then they get insight. But what I noticed quite quickly was that they would recreate the energy in maybe tomorrow, maybe in 2 weeks, maybe in 6 months. But at some point they would recreate the energy and start acting out their conditioning again. So then I realized, I need to work with their feelings, their emotions, their thoughts, their psychology, their belief systems. In other words, I had to work with all of them. I had to work physically as well, and energetically, and put it all together. And then people made changes that they kept forever because their mind had been changed, their belief system had been changed. Through the pure insight, I stayed with the wisdom a bit longer, so they really understood it. And then I checked that the energy of the conditioning was gone and that their new belief system was programming their cells. And that's how I work now.
So, just that I understand it correctly. So when you say you're working energetically with the energy, is it then that you are aware of the feeling that you are emitting, as in being this anchor or the, the anchor for the other? Or do you work in a different way? Like, I don't know, imagining waves of energy, or what do you really mean by working with energy?
Okay, so I don't really work in any of the ways that you've just said.
Okay.
But I am an anchor for their energy, because if I'm not in a calm, open, curious place inside of myself, then their cells don't have a role model for that. Now, cells, Bruce Lipton has proved with epigenetics beyond genetics that first and foremost, we are 70 trillion cells that are looking around their environment, which includes inside the body and outside the body, for data, for communication, for knowledge. And then they're making a decision based on all the data they're receiving about whether they turn on and do their job or they turn off and they don't do their job. Now, that's how the synaptic clefts work. But they're not just receiving energy, information from the body. They're actually probably receiving more information from outside. So the cells, through their receptors, their protein receptors, which is hairs around the cell, are receiving information. This is a scary environment. Okay, let's just wait and hold on and observe and see what happens. Or this is a scary environment. We got to fight, or we got to run away. So then they go into the stress response. We know what the stress response is. Or, well, hey, this is an exciting environment. I want to get involved in here. So they turn on, they get excited, they vibrate in a really healthy, good way, and life is great. So I'm aware of what their cells are doing all the time. I'm aware of what cells are working really well, what cells are not working really well, and I'm in communication with their higher self. So that's the quickest way to work for me. So I will just shut my eyes, read somebody's energy, and what's the thing they need to know now? What's the most helpful thing they need to know now around what they want to achieve from working with me? And their higher self will just tell me. And then I put that in the form of a question. Because the reason why I do that, if I ask a question, they're going to be more open to exploring it. If I tell them what the energy says, then sometimes that works for people, but it's best putting it like a question. And then the person will say, yeah, that's true about me, or no, I don't think of the world like that. I see the world like this, this, and this. And I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. Tell me more about that. And then I get to hear their belief systems. And I already know that belief system is very true, whether they're living that out or whether it's just a mental thing and actually they're living something else out. So someone might believe they're an angry person but come across very loving and gentle. And that's the truth. Deep down, they are loving and gentle. They're just angry because they're not receiving something from the world that they need. Because they've never learned how to drop their protective, stressful response to show the love and the care underneath that. So all this can happen really quickly once I show people what it is they're giving out, and once they realize but can see why they're giving that out, and we change that story by changing beliefs. We take away the energy that enables them to get inside of themselves and really see what's going on. And then they have pure insight, and then they're completely open, and their cells are ready to be reprogrammed. And we do that by working in symbolism, imagination, the felt sense of the body. So we're working directly with the unconscious mind to change what it thinks and feels about itself, which then enables proper change to happen in the world. Because 95% of the time we're working unconsciously. This has evolutionary reasons and benefits. But a quick example, you're driving your car, you get home, you park in the garage, and then you're like, oh, didn't buy the shopping on the way home. I completely did not see the supermarket. Where was I? Because you wasn't driving the car, you wasn't looking around you. You were busy thinking about your meeting tomorrow morning. So you drive past the supermarket, you completely forget you're hungry. The trigger of arriving home at your door reminds you you're hungry because it's dinner time. The whole journey, your mind has been elsewhere, thinking about the meeting, which is tomorrow. So consciously, we are in the past or in the future. Our unconscious mind is present, driving the car. So the secret to life is to become present, is to bring your conscious mind here and now. And that's where excitement and joy is.
And like you are talking about reading the energy. Can you perhaps talk a bit more how this looks to you? Like what and how are you reading the energy so that I can, just get a bit of
Okay.
feedback.
So I keep getting tempted to ask you, do you want me to read your energy? Are you up for that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So real life example.
Perfect.
So if you say your full name 3 times for me, Verena, giving me complete permission to read your energy, that'd be great. Sorry.
So my middle name as well?
Yes, please.
Okay. Verena Silvia Debner.
3 times.
Verena Silvia Debner. Verena Silvia Debner.
So I'm going to leave my eyes closed because I don't want to see your feedback. And just so the viewers know, we don't actually know each other that well. We've never really spoken about each other. We've spoken about each other's animals.
Yeah.
So I see that you're a person with really big visions and a really big heart, and you really want to create change in the world. But I also see that you tend to hold yourself back because you want to be accepted and you want to be seen in a way that you think is socially acceptable. And this has been conditioned into you. Actually, wow, it feels more like from your mother than your father. And of course, by society. But yeah, it seemed like your mum used to believe that unless you behaved in a certain way, she wouldn't be loved. And you took on a little bit of that. Would you say that's true?
Sounds very true. Yeah.
Okay. So the way that I felt a lot of it with you, and I'm getting messages from your unconscious mind, but I could feel the energy, and I could feel some of it in my body, but the safest way is to feel it outside my body, and then I'm just interpreting those feelings.
Yeah.
But I've been doing this my whole entire life, so it's just very simple for me. But I also teach, when I work with people one-to-one, I teach them how to communicate with their own energy. And that's the thing that most energy workers think is the hardest thing. I used to. Like, oh, it's easy working with someone else's, work my own. Oh, that's hard. I'm attached to my own energy. But it's actually really simple. So I would guess that you're a felt person. Your main sense is you like to feel yourself away around the world.
Yeah.
And that's why when I read your energy, it was a felt sense. If I was reading someone else's energy, it's very auditory, like they hear, they take on information, which is my next client, then I hear a lot of his energy. I hear it in words. I hear, like, I hear bits of his thought system, not all of it, not his thoughts as such, but, you know, I hear it. If someone's a doer, then, you know, that has a different feeling quality of doing to it. If someone's visual, then I just see pictures. And sometimes that can be harder for me. I'm just like, okay, I see a picture of a guy on a lake rowing a boat. What does that mean to you? And they go, oh yeah, la 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 la. And I'm like, oh great, because it meant nothing to me. you know. But sometimes I see pictures and it's just really cool. I was speaking to this man one day. I was giving him a coaching session, and I can't remember now exactly what it was. But when I read his energy, I still remember the picture. I saw him standing under the branch of a tree, of a big oak tree. And I said to him, this is a really vivid picture. You're standing under the branch of an oak tree, but you can't reach the branch, even though it's just above your head. And I said to him, if I was to guess what that meant, it means that you're keeping yourself locked down because you're believing in your intellect. But if you just allowed yourself to move 1 little centimetre to the left or the right, you'd be free from being underneath the branch, and you could communicate with the oak tree and share your wisdom. And he said, yeah, that's exactly what I need to do. And then he came out with this 20-step program. And I was just like, oh. It's a little picture that meant a huge amount to him. It was just beautiful.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So what would you say then, what makes the change? Like, is it that, that the people go in and change their belief systems to something better, or what's happening then for change that sticks?
Good question. So the only reason why I work with people's minds and belief systems and everything else is so they can take complete responsibility and acknowledge what created the problem in the first place. Now, taking complete responsibility doesn't mean they blame themselves or it's my fault. It just means seeing it how it really is, seeing it in its whole picture. Because unless the left brain understands why it's doing something, it just keeps telling the right brain to repeat, because it feels safe. Yeah. The left brain has to understand why a change is needed, why something happened, and then why a change is needed. So I tell the left brain that by working with thoughts, by working with belief systems. So the left brain says, oh, great, okay. And it basically just quietens down. It lets the right mind do whatever it wants. The right mind is the creative mind. It sees in pictures, it symbolically, metaphorically. It's quicker to work with the unconscious mind if you're directly talking with the right mind. So when I say the right mind, I mean the right hemisphere. Mm-hmm. So I quieten the left hemisphere by doing the belief work, by acknowledging how it is, acknowledging the responsibility, taking ownership of where you're at. And then as soon as that quietens down, we can work with the energy of the right mind. We can take away the energy, we can clear the energy, and then the person just knows how to move, how to go forward. So this is a much more complicated process when you're talking to an adult. Mm-hmm. But I was talking to a teenager recently with, 7 months ago, with obsessive compulsive disorder. And he had seen a good friend of mine who's a free principles coach. And this young man, 13 years old, he fully understood the free principles. But he didn't know how to apply them. And he definitely didn't know how to apply them to his OCD. My friend, on the other hand, cured his OCD by understanding the free principles. But the interesting thing about my friend is he admittedly say he still has OCD thinking, obsessive compulsive disorder thinking. He just knows how to deal with the thinking. That's not good enough for me. So I said to this young man, I said, explain to me what it's like having OCD. And he said a few things. I said, in one sentence, what is the OCD like? And he said, it's like a monster in my head that never shuts up. And I said, wow, that's really interesting. What do you want to do with that monster? He said, well, I want to kill it. Can I do that? I was like, yeah, sure, let's kill it. How are we going to kill it? So he came up with this plan. I was like, yeah, great. I said, but let me teach you something first. He said, oh, okay. So I taught him how to go into his body. I taught him how to ground and how to feel his own real energy. And then I said to him, how does that feel like? And he told me, he said, it feels really positive. He said, my whole body's vibrating, well, apart from bits of my body. And I was like, that's really interesting. So your whole body, apart from bits, because I just repeat the same thing back to him, is vibrating. Why the bits that are not vibrating? Why are they not vibrating? He said, oh, because the monster controls them. I said, oh, great, right. So you said you wanted to kill him. He said, oh, yeah, I do. I said, so have you got a different plan now? And he's like, yeah, I could throw the positive energy at him. I was like, yeah, let's do that. Let's see what happens. So then he was throwing them at the monster in his head, and it was working, but it was a bit painful. So I said to him, you know, just for now, project the monster outside of you and throw the positive energy at him from outside of you. And he was like, yeah, all right, because he's a child. He's not, oh, but that's impossible. He was just like, yeah, all right. And then, so he killed the monster. So I then said to him, all right, great. So how do you feel? He said, oh, I feel brilliant. I'm vibrating. I feel great. I said, where's the monster? And he's like, the monster's dead. I'm like, perfect. I said, so what are you going to do after this call? So he told me. I was like, fantastic. And then I said to him, so you understand how thought works, right? You understand that, you know, and I said a few things about thought, that basically you just create thought and it's in any moment, and thoughts can come from anywhere. And sometimes they're yours, sometimes they're not, sometimes they mean something, sometimes they don't. He said, yeah, I get that. I said, okay. So if you ever thought about eating chocolate ice cream, what do you want to do? He said, yeah, I want to eat it. I said, but is it your thought? He said, it is my thought as soon as I want to eat it. I was like, that's right. That's absolutely brilliant. It is your thought as soon as you want to eat it. And I said, but what happens if you get the thought about eating chocolate ice cream and it's too cold, you don't want to eat ice cream? He said, oh, I just ignore the thought. I said, yeah, it's easy, isn't it? And it's gone. He said, yeah, that's right. And I said, so what about if you get a thought again and it feels like it's a thought from the monster? He said, well, I'm not going to get rid of the OCD that quickly, am I? I said, what do you mean by that? He said, well, this is great and everything, but it hasn't worked. It's going to take me a while before the OCD's gone. I said, but why? You've killed the monster, so what else is there to do? And he said, really? It's gone? I said, well, you told me you killed the monster. Can you feel it? Can you feel it in your body now? Are you hearing anything? He said, no. I said, right, the monster's gone. It's dead, right? He said, yeah, right. I said, but what if you get a thought and it feels like it's the monster? He said, well, I'll just kill him again, won't I? I said, yeah, absolutely. You'll just kill him again. And that was it. Straight after that call, that boy went and had a shower for the first time in 6 months by himself. And he burst out crying when he came out of the shower. And his father said, I'm getting teary just thinking about it. His father said to him, are you all right, son? You know? And he's like, yeah, I feel like I've got me back. I've got control over my life again. And then 6 months later, his father sends me a message saying, oh, he's having some problems in school and he won't go to school today. I was like, not a problem. Give me his phone number and I'll call him. So I was out with my dog at the time in a field and I just phoned him up and I was like, hey, how you doing? He was like, yeah, I'm doing all right. And I said, all right, that's not good enough. What's going on? So he told me about school. And I said to him, okay, so what's really happening in school? You know how thought works. What's really happening in school? So he said something which was a bit more enlightening. And then I spoke to him about energy matching. And I spoke to him about being in his own energy and what that's like and what that means. And he knows this because he had been doing the homework that I set him. And he was really good. So when I say to him ground, he could ground. When I said to him, you know, look at your energy, he could look at his energy and everything else. Because kids learn super quick. So then I said, well, okay, so what are you going to do next time they bully you? He said, oh, I'm just going to ground and just, if I feel like having a laugh and joke with them, I'm going to have a laugh and joke with them. And if I don't, I'm just going to tell them stop being idiots and sit down. He said, but I'm not going to give them my energy. And I said, that's right, because what happens when you give them your energy? He said, well, that encourages them. They continue. And I was like, yeah, that's right. Guess what? I kind of knew this when I was at school. But it took me a while to fully learn it because I was bullied at school because I was obviously different. But I was only bullied by one person, you know, so that made it a bit easier. And on the surface, it looked like I dealt really well with it, but it did hurt. It did hurt. So when I heard that this kid was being bullied, I just phoned him up and gave him a session for free because I just wanted it sorted. And he'd already worked with me, so you know we'd already done some really good stuff around it. So yeah, I'm not sure if I answered your question.
You did.
Yeah, so the most important thing, actually, I remember the answer. The most important thing is that the person gets fully embodied in their own energy and they know what that feels like.
Mm.
Because once you're embodied in your own full energy, now I believe in oneness. I believe we're all here, we're all one, we're just a community of cells working together in this so-called world. So we're not different, separate people. We're together. We're a community of cells, if you want to look at it like that. Just like the body's a community of cells. And once you really accept and feel and be in your own energy, and the world's your oyster. You know that you're oneness with everything, and you know that you're totally unlimited. Because you're just a cell in this beautiful organism called Earth.
Beautiful.
And you just get to play and create and enjoy and spread wisdom and joy and love. What's better than that?
Oh wow. No, it's so beautiful when I'm listening to you, Fiona. And yeah, and now I'm like, yeah, I want to know how, how can I go further with that, and so I suspect that some people who are listening to you would also like to work with you. So what are you doing at the moment? Do you have any programs, or how can people get more of Fiona?
Yeah, so I really love my one-to-one work. And for people that are going to say, but I can't afford it, there's 4 audios for free on my website. And they teach you how to ground. And grounding really is the foundation of living a life embodied in your own energy. So that's absolutely free. So you can leave your details, download the exercise and unsubscribe if that's what you want to do. So that's the first thing. I've written 2 books. One's available on the website. The other one's being rewritten at the moment. So, that's another way. People do one-to-one coaching with me, which is a, tailor-made program to get you through whatever you're struggling with at the moment, to break through to the next level. And that's a life changer. Just see all the testimonials on my website for that. So my website is Real Energy, the number 4, all, ALL.com. RealEnergy4all.com.
Yeah, and I also put it in the show notes as well.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Sure.
But what I'm very excited about at the moment is I've been publicly telling people I'm reading energy for 10 years now. And what I'm very excited about is I'm just about to start teaching people how to read energy. So they are going to learn how to read their energy and work with other people's energies. And if you're already a therapist or a coach, then I will help you specifically learn how to work with other people's energies. Now, this program is going to be 12 online webinars, live webinars with myself teaching. It's going to be 6 coaching sessions, one-to-one coaching sessions that you'll get one-to-one time with me, an hour each session, or an hour and a bit more. There's going to be 3 question and answer sessions, so where people can just ask me questions, they can check things out with me, and I will answer them. It will all be recorded. You'll have access to it, for a lifetime. So you don't have to come live if you can't make some of the sessions. And it's just going to be so exciting, because I know there's nobody out there teaching energy the way that I do. There's definitely no one out there giving you the support that I'm going to give you. I looked at a course, I'm not going to mention the name, but it's a 2-day course. So you turn up, you spend all day in a hotel, you go home, you turn up the next day, you spend all day in a hotel again. It's $800. And it's just 2 days, and it's meant to open your intuition for $800. As soon as the 2 days are over, that's it. There's no more support. There's no one-to-one help. You're going to be sitting in a hotel room with at least 200, if not 1,000 other people. It does not compare to a small group of 4 to 8 people that are not only getting live teaching with me over a period of 15 weeks, but they're getting question and answer sessions, they're getting one-to-one sessions. I really, really care that people learn how to read energy in a beneficial way for themselves and others. So that's why I'm going to spend the time with you, and that's why I'm going to support you. But you have to apply for this program, because I want to make sure that you're going to learn these skills for the benefit of yourself and the world and other people, not to manipulate. So I've actually turned down more people than I've accepted on the course so far.
Wow.
But that's not to deter people from, talking to me and seeing if this is a right fit for them.
Fantastic. Yeah, so we'll also put the info about the website where people can find out more
Excellent.
in the show notes, and people can then just kind of get in contact with you and find out if the program is a good fit for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds awesome. Wonderful. Well, Fiona, thank you so much. That was such an inspiring conversation. Yeah, I just love your energy, and yeah, how you really wholeheartedly care about the people, and all these real life examples that are just touching. It's really beautiful. So
Thank you.
thank you so much for your time, and yeah, looking forward to talk more soon.
Okay, lots of love. Thank you, Raina. Take care of yourself.
Thank you, you too. Bye,
Bye.
Fiona.
Bye.